Welcome back to the Data Protection Diaries. In this video, we're going to be talking about the recent increase, certainly in our organisation, around the number of inquiries that have been coming in for outsourced data protection officer services. Now, the outsourced data protection officer services that are on the market today are there to provide organisations with a DPO that comes from a external organisation rather than having somebody appointed from within their own organisation. There are a number of reasons that organisations do this, but the recent uptake in inquiries has caused us to think that actually maybe there are three key factors which are driving this, which may be things that are worth considering if you are looking at outsourcing your own DPO to a third-party service. As always, if you find this video useful, please do give us a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and we'll look to produce as much more useful content as we possibly can. But for the now, let's get on with the video in question today. So the first thing to remember is that having a data protection officer is not a mandatory requirement for all organisations. Only organisations that are processing large-scale amounts of personal data or that operate in the public sector are mandated to have a data protection officer by the GDPR. It is recommended by the Information Commissioner's Office that organisations should look to have somebody to help them with their data protection activities if they are doing a lot of processing of personal data, but it is not a requirement for everybody to have a designated officer within their organisation. And that's really the first thing to point out here. The second thing is that the role of the data protection officer is one of independence. So the DPO is supposed to be able to act on their own accord. They should be acting without instruction from the data controller or the organisation as a whole, and they should be able to make decisions freely and provide advice and guidance without feeling like they can't do their job or like they'd be prejudiced against for doing their role. So they need to be listened to. This is one of the first reasons why we've found in the last few weeks that people are starting to look for an outsourced DPO rather than an insourced one. Outsourcing the role of the DPO allows that independence to be much more manageable. You are not constrained by line management, you're not constrained by management or organisational structures, so you don't have to worry about where within the organisation your individual DPO sits and how they may feel if they're being pressurised by somebody who is responsible for their bonus, for instance, responsible for their pay rise, or in certain instances often responsible for whether or not they're going to go through a redundancy process based on the current crisis. So having that outsourced solution allows organisations to have that independence and that assurance that the person doing the role can do so freely, can do so of their own accord, and can make appropriate decisions and provide guidance in the best possible mindset. The second thing to consider as to why organisations are starting to look more into the outsourcing side of the role is cost. Obviously, during the pandemic, a huge number of organisations have taken a heavy financial hit. Now, whether we like it or not, as privacy professionals, one of the first things or one of the first roles that is often affected in a round of redundancies are compliance related roles, which are sometimes seen as more of a cost centre than a business benefit. The role of the DPO is not one that directly generates income, so it is hard to offset that cost for an organisation, which can mean that it'd be very easy for organisations to think that this is the role that they can get rid of. What that leads to is a drive to outsourcing. Obviously, outsourcing the role of the DPO comes with its own economic benefits. Having an in-house resource that you're paying an annual salary for can be expensive. You have obviously employee liabilities, you have pension costs, national insurance, employee benefits, and a number of other things. In organisations where we've seen a particular uptick in the charity sector, obviously fundraising activities are being reduced, and the amount of money physically coming into the organisation has been significantly reduced, but the need for regulatory compliance has obviously not reduced. If anything, actually that need for regulatory compliance has increased, and they need to be more careful of how they're managing the information that they have and how they're looking after their donor information and the activities that they're carrying out. Outsourcing the role of the DPO in those instances can be extremely beneficial by reducing the annual cost down, but also by enabling the organisation to put funds into other areas of the business that will allow them to create better security, better controls, and also allow them to carry on with what's important, which actually is their fundraising activities. The final reason that we're seeing a particular increase in the number of inquiries around the DPO service is flexibility. So as we've already mentioned, having an in-house DPO is a costly exercise. Finding the right individual, finding somebody with the right level of experience can be time consuming as well. And in many cases, organisations don't actually need somebody full-time in-house doing the role. They are just looking for advice and guidance on certain things or certain areas of the business, or they have particular projects or activities that they need more support on, but they don't need somebody sat there all day, every day carrying out those activities. It is possible to place the role of the DPO in with another role, but there are potential conflicts of interests. We've already done a video on that, which we can show you, of course, as well. But here we're talking about the ability for an organisation to contact their outsourced DPO service and be able to say, we have a quick query, we need something looking at, can you help us out with this particular contract, with this particular project? Can you help us review a particular DPIA? And that flexibility can be spread out over the course of the month. So actually one day can be used in a number of smaller hours as and when required, rather than feeling like you have a constant resource that is costing money. So that's the third reason why we're seeing an increase in the number of people starting to raise inquiries about external and outsourced DPO services. Now, as I said at the beginning of this video, it is not in any way mandatory for every organisation to have a data protection officer. If you are told this by any company, by anybody trying to sell you these kinds of services, then they are wrong and you are being misled. If you are unsure as to whether your organisation requires a data protection officer, then you can find out fairly quickly and easily on the Information Commissioner's Office website, which is www.ico.org.uk. And on there, they have an assessment tool, which is very quick, very easy for you to use. You can put in your organisational details, the kind of information that you're processing, and the volumes, and the Information Commissioner's Office tool will recommend whether or not you should be looking to appoint a DPO. That's where we would suggest that you go and look first before you start looking at whether or not you need to contact external organisations, because that way you are going in with the information that you need, so you understand exactly what service you're looking for, rather than running the risk of being told that you may need something that is not suitable or appropriate for your organisation. As always, and as we've always said, if you find these videos useful or you find this content interesting, please do give us a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us to spread the message further and helps us get these videos out to a wider audience, and we hope that those people will find that useful as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop those down below, or you'll catch our contact details both at the beginning and the end of this video. For now, that's all from us. We look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you very much for watching.